Call to order the Germantown School District Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, April 28th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Roll call. Village Trustee Cutts.
Here.
Loth.
Here.
Voyer.
Here.
And I am here, Pollack. Item number 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Loth with the motion, Cutts with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the approval of the February 10th, 2025 meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from February 10th meeting.
Second.
Cutts with the motion, Voyer with the second. Any discussion?
Yeah, item 10, I'm pretty sure that was Mr. Loth that declared the meeting adjourned at 5:24 p.m.
Yes.
because thankfully you stayed home and didn't come in sick that evening. And with all the nasty stuff that was going around, we appreciated it too.
Okay, so is that an amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Need a second on the amendment.
Second.
All right, we're going to vote on the amendment first. That is to update item number 10. Instead of Committee Chair Pollack declared the meeting adjourned at 5:24, it should say Committee Chair Loth declared the meeting adjourned at 5:24. Any discussion, clarification on that?
Maybe acting chair.
Sure, acting Committee Chair Loth. All right, no discussion. We're voting on the amendment to make that change to item number 10. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Or, excuse me, amendment carries. Now we're going to go back to the motion to approve the February 10th, 2025 meeting minutes with the approved change to item number 10, reflecting the change that we just voted through. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5, reports and updates. Letter A, GHS and KMS sinkhole repairs update. Mr. Lord.
Yes, thank you. So on February 13th, 2025, staff noticed a sinkhole at the Fieldhouse parking lot at the Germantown High School. To be a little more specific, that was right in front of the Fieldhouse. Immediate action was taken by coning and barricading the area off. Staff worked with the Village Public Works Department and contractors that had previously worked with the district to ensure all necessary parties were involved. That essentially refers to anyone during the installation thereof. Staff had a local professional on site to scope the catch basin and drain tubing to identify what the cause of the sinkhole was, as well as the extent of the damage. It was confirmed that the sinkhole was caused from material displacement through a failing connection between the drain tube and catch basin. Staff then confirmed there was no reasoning to hold a second party accountable for this failure. Therefore, that would have been the contractor that installed the drainage system. As I did do quite a bit of a background search to make sure all inspections were completed on those areas at the time of the construction, and they were. So, therefore, it was essentially our liability. Due to the safety concerns posed, staff hired DeAngelis Construction to repair the sinkhole. DeAngelis Construction successfully repaired the sinkhole and also replicated the repair to the adjacent catch basin as a preventative measure. And that one was starting to deteriorate as well, so we figured we might as well get ahead of the ballgame on it. The cost for this work was $11,000 even, and DeAngelis is currently working towards repairs on a sinkhole and the failing culvert at Kennedy Middle School. The culvert is on the far north side, on the other side of the softball diamond, right by the parking lot, essentially. That manhole right there started to cave in. So it is fenced off, but they will be repairing that. The cost of this work with the mysterious ongoing sinkhole closer to the bus drive in the back of Kennedy Middle School is $8,700. And I will be giving an update to the Buildings and Grounds Committee once this work is complete. And I will attach photos as well. I apologize for that.
All right, thank you for that update. Any questions from the committee? Yes, Mr. Lowe.
I'm curious, these catch basins, were they installed before the referendum work or after, or during the referendum work? During.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are several more between the back drive and the upper student lot, which I've already been in contact with the same contractor to at least scope them to see if those, just because they're the same age, if there's gonna be any ongoing issue.
Yeah, and we've seen, Brittany, Frank, and I have been on site obviously multiple times looking at this, and we've seen cracks throughout the Fieldhouse parking lot that our concern long-term is we may have future sinkholes, so that's why Frank's looking into that further.
Yeah. I mean, I get not going after the previous contractor, it's been a while. We don't need to pay the lawyers a lot of money for not much benefit, but if the other, you know, if they've all got problems, we might wanna,
Sure. Look into that further.
again, a little diplomacy might
Yep.
work. But I wouldn't get lawyers involved in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions? Mr. Ewert.
Is that the natural length of life for that, or is that an installation issue, or?
So there is, I've talked with a lot of professionals in that industry, so to say, and it really varies, and more so in, you know, the climate that we live in, due to the freezing and thawing and everything of that nature. As far as the failing goes, it does happen when it's just an asphalt-built catch basin around the manhole. And when I do bring the pictures, you'll see we went with a 10 by 10 foot slab of concrete to give it more of a structural hold.
No, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my only question would be, what about other schools and their parking lots and their other areas where this may happen? I mean, is this something also on the radar in a priority perspective?
So it is, I shouldn't say that. You never think about them until something like this happens. So with that, I guess what I'll say is it's definitely on more of the top of my list as a preventative. Probably not an annual, but maybe a biannual, depending the cost and what it all entails, just to, you know, hopefully get ahead of it if we do see a lot of deterioration or cracking or lack of seals, so.
I think referendum-wise, the high school probably had the most parking lot work done.
Well, the
So
MacArthur lot
we-
is
Yeah, MacArthur,
new.
a little bit.
So,
I don't know if there were any new catch basins at MacArthur, though. I don't think there was.
I don't think so, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it would still just benefit depending, no matter when it was from. Obviously, like I said, some may last 50 years, you know, others not so much. So it might just be a district-wide check everywhere. If it's as quick as dropping down and taking a look at the connections, so.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, moving on to item 5B, Amy Bell window replacements. Mr. Lord.
Yes. So classrooms 125 and 127 at Amy Bell Elementary School each have a set of a window set that are currently in need of replacement. Both windows are currently in a failing state of condition. By that I mean the leaking seals, rotting casework, deteriorated gaskets, etc. The combined window replacement is part of the 5-year capital improvement plan as presented on January 7th, 2025. Staff worked with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, a reputable company that the district has utilized for several previous window replacements, to receive costings. The cost to replace both windows is $12,800. This project will be scheduled to take place during the summer break.
Okay, thank you. Before I open up for questions, I appreciate the fact that you tied this back to the 5-year capital improvement plan, that it was already on there. Even, I can't recall if the year was proper or if it was planned a little farther out, but the fact that this was already on our radar is something that I'd just like to highlight. Any questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Loth?
Yeah, are the new windows similar to these, or are they aluminum insulated frame?
These will be fiberglass.
Fiberglass?
Re-broken, yep. So it'll,
Okay.
I mean, as far as any sort of thermal value, they're high.
Wood on the inside still, or
Yep.
no?
Yep, yeah, we're gonna try and do an exact replica just to keep things consistent.
Okay.
Any other questions from the committee or the board?
You know, I think, I mean, the wood's fine, it looks classy, kinda home-like, but I'm not sure it's industrial grade,
Sure.
you know, that a school might need, but I think we can go ahead and try, fiberglass, see how it goes. Do we have, such windows elsewhere that we've replaced, fiberglass?
I actually believe the one at County Line was fiberglass.
Is-
Last year.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, we'll have to look at those on a
Yeah.
building tour, you know, just to
It's coming up, next
I-
report.
eyeball them,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely.
Thanks for the pictures on this one, by
Yeah.
the way.
Absolutely.
They're very nice and they're worth 1,000 words.
Did we get other estimates, or are we just sticking with Pella because we've been using them and consistent in what we're gonna use from now on?
I've stuck with them with consistency, and it was, I mean, a pre-me leading this point, and frankly, their costs, as far as my judgment goes, industry-wise, they get a very good cost for an installer, which I'm not gonna say is a mon pa. They have insurance and everything, but they're smaller contractors that they can hire, so they can keep it at a lower premium, so.
Anything else? Okay. Item 5C, facility condition report updates. Dr. Reuter.
Thank you, Mr. Pollack. I wanted to bring this back. It's been 2 months now since we moved forward with work with JP Cullen and PRA. I'd ask of a show of hands who's read their 1,100-page document, back, front to back. Nice job. You guys get a gold star. Mr. Pollack told me he has to get new prescriptions for his glasses based on the small print.
Very small.
And I said, imagine if that was normal print. It'd be
Right.
a lot bigger. But anyways, I digress that as I've talked with Mr. Lord and various board members, we'd like to make this a standing agenda item monthly moving forward. Mr. Pollack, you just reiterated that we have things in our 5-year capital plan that crosswalk with things that were outlined from the condition facility use report that show things that need to be a priority or urgent matter, as well as things that are long-term matter. So tonight I just wanted to entertain discussion and get feedback from the committee, and obviously the full board is here, related to holding monthly meetings related to specific buildings and items within that report. So we have a targeted reason to go on building visits versus just walking through buildings and looking at things, but we have the report that will point out key priority areas, as well as Mr. Lord coming back next month and sharing a crosswalk of what was laid out in the report versus what he's itemized prior to that report, what's the same, what might be different, or how the 5-year building plan needs to change for each building based on the professionals we hired as a school district to look at that. So I wanted to share that tonight. I will reach out through my weekly communication with times and survey to see what the full board and Ms. Cutts are available so that we can itemize now over the next, this building will take a couple minutes, but over the next 5 months, each building, or 6 months, each building, and have a very prioritized look in and a deep dive into those buildings and get feedback so we can think about financially what we're doing as a district to fix, update, become in code with what we need to do as at each building, as well as thinking long-term planning and what that looks like. So that's kind of the vision I wanted to share with you tonight, and open it up for any discussion or feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the better-ish, if not bestest, way to take attack of this, because there is just so much, and obviously we have a number of buildings that we need to review and go through. So, you know, I'm interested in feedback as well from the group, but ultimately, whether it's, you know, 1 month we focus solely on GHS because it's our biggest building, it's got the most stuff, maybe, whatever the case might be, but trying to fit in a few months' time, 4 months' time, a review of everything by building with the overall. Because obviously if we focus on GHS 1 month and we move on to a couple other schools and then a couple other schools, it would be nice to see how each individual school has been prioritized for sure, but then at that broader picture as well, because obviously that's where we really need to make those prioritized decisions is as an aggregate. There will be certain things certainly at a building that could be above and beyond everything else because of its priority. But so having those two different perspectives as we go through the buildings and then overall the district level view, I think is the most effective or efficient way to do it, because there's a lot to go through.
And I think, I don't remember off the top of my head, $400,000 we have earmarked in our Brittany would know this right away, in our 5-year capital plan.
I thought you were looking at Frank.
Yeah, but you're the numbers lady. But we have money already earmarked on things that are prioritized. And that's why Frank and I have talked a lot about him bringing a crosswalk table of what we already have prioritized and what can be knocked off that list. And we know our projects moving forward versus, okay, it's a blank slate, we have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because we have money as a school district that you as a board have set forth and said, this is our priority.
Mhm.
And now, does that align with what JP Cullen EPRA told us as well?
Would there be benefit to kind of starting with the ones that are like 1 to 3 years? Because if we focus on the high school and then all of a sudden we're missing something big that would have to be at Kennedy or one of the other elementary schools, because we're focusing here, we're not seeing it. So I don't know if it'd be best just to kind of concentrate, just like an overview of the, the 1 to 2 maybe years.
And that's why I think the May buildings, that's a great
Yeah.
point, Kim.
Yeah.
That's the May buildings and grounds where Frank will come and say, disregard the name of the building, but here are the major projects that need to take place in the next 1 to 3 years, and here's the money we've set aside. Now let's go visit each building after the fact.
Right.
I would say, it's gonna take time to get into all the buildings, it always does. And it's important to dovetail these things together while we do that, and I agree with that. But whatever way you decide to organize that, I would probably look at this report and figure out what building has the most needs and organize the tours in that fashion. And if we can knock out more than one building at a time, 6 months
Sure.
to work on this is probably too long, although we will continue to work on it over the next 10 years. 6-month window to get a starting point is probably dragging it out a little too far. I'm not saying have an answer next month,
No,
but
and I think we already have things in the works, and that's why the crosswalk is important first, because
yeah.
things
I'm
are
just saying
taking
you
place.
may be discussing schools or may need to be discussing schools,
Sure.
to your point, the bigger dollar projects or whatever, the most needed projects up front, regardless of school name, might have to get worked on prior to us ever getting the tour into that building, or you're gonna have to have more than one meeting a month. I just don't think 6 months to get into the 6 buildings is a program.
That's fair.
So, I don't know if this is middle ground as part of what's been thrown out in the short time so far. I agree with Kim that the 1 to 3 years, the near term, high priority type of, or potentially high priority stuff, I think is a place to start. Something that our experts identified 10 years out. I'm going to lean on their expertise and say that's probably reasonable. But there's big dollars no matter which way we look at it. And I think if we take that 1 to 3 year approach as a starting point, there may be some things that, because of our situation or because of whatever discussion surrounds that particular item, we should be able to fairly easily go, this is something we do need to consider versus this is something that, a lot of the examples have been thrown out. Sometimes they make the example of, we got to rip out all of the parking lot to put in a brand new parking lot from top to bottom versus seal coat. Some of those initial things can go, that would make sense if it was really in bad shape, but it's not. We can put that off to the side for now. As far as the building tours or going in and actually seeing the stuff ourselves, if we can condense the review piece and then focus on, okay, here's our long list, here's our shorter list,
Yep.
now let's go look at it. And go, on paper, this sounds horrible, and we're kind of stuck between, well, we have $100,000 to be able to spend on this, but we have two $100,000 items, let's go actually look at it. And that's maybe, it's not necessarily review, tour, it's more like, let's take the big list, whittle it down to something that's semi-reasonable, and then let's go look at the stuff. And then we, it might be like we've done in the past with the community building tours, where we visit multiple schools in a day, or an afternoon or morning, and that's when we do it. And then we can come back and say, okay, based off our notes, our shortened list is now this much shorter, and kind of keep whittling down from there. It's-
But I think in doing it that way, it's, before we were just wandering through the buildings. Here it's targeted, looking at these things specifically, so it's not gonna be, an hour at each building. It's, we need to go look at this, or if that discussion takes that long, but
Mhm.
you're now more targeting our visits instead of just a walk.
Right here, our top 5 priorities in this building, or 3, depending upon that report, right? Because it varied from Amy Bell was smaller, to your point, GHS is big, right?
Mhm.
Each building is different with what they need, or what that 1 to 3 year looks like versus 5, 7, or 8 years plus.
Right, and even 1 to 3, you're gonna have more critical items versus, some that they should be addressed in 1 to 3, but,
We can offset that for
Correct.
future.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Phil?
I just, in regards to a timeline can be adjusted, but, to be able to levy in October for Fund 41, which it would be an estimated $600,000, cause we've increased it $50,000 each year. We would have to bring a plan that was approved by the board, and again, can change throughout the year as projects change, but, some 5-year lookout should be presented and approved by the board by October, has to be actually, to be able to levy for it, but again, can change once, if the board approves it later on in the year.
So I think that's important timeline, as always. The other issue is this is half the data. We have the POP study that's coming in, the enrollment study that's coming in, and PRA is gonna relook at this, and some of the proposals may change in here based off of the projections of that study. And we don't know what that's gonna be. If that's gonna say, you're not gonna have enough school space, you have too much school space, we don't know that yet. And that's going to come in the next couple of months here. So I think it's just gonna be a project, and I have faith in the committee to work through it, but this is why it now has to be monthly. And if it takes, just to make sure we're on that October deadline, we might have to put some overtime in to get this done, and there might be a bi-monthly in there just to make sure we're at where we need to be. But I just ask that the committee is dedicated to that process to make sure we're not short on that October deadline or crammed in, and then we're missing appropriate actions that need to be taken to meet that deadline.
And there's the possibility also, we don't have to physically meet here. If we're at a building, we go on a tour, we call the meeting to order and hold a meeting, may or may not be videoed, but we'd call an order to meeting at that specific
Yeah.
building after a tour to discuss what we saw.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can talk through that. I'll work with you,
Yes.
Mr. Pollock,
Yeah, 'cause-
on that, and I'll send the board what do I send a doodle, so you guys can pick times that work, and we'll go from there.
So I'm clear on this. So basically, May, June, July, August, September. So if we have something in place for the September committee meeting to basically say this is what we're taking to the board as far as 5-year plan, et cetera. We present it at the board for September. That provides the time frame that lines up with what you've described. Okay,
Yes.
so basically 4 months to review, prioritize, tour
Yep.
is kind of what, okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments from, yes, Ms. Cutts?
I like what you're saying about whittling it down, so it's more focused, because everybody's busy, and to be able to try to coordinate this group to
Yeah.
get together would be hard. But I just have a quick question for you, Frank. A lot of the stuff that's in the big binders is small caulking, all that, that's all stuff, we don't have to think about the cost, cause that's stuff you're able to do,
Right.
correct?
Yes, and I, somewhere we did talk about, meeting, or even just myself taking that layer of, what, they listed everything, but what we take care of on a regular operational, I can, cut that off so we don't have to stare at it, so to say.
Yeah, but I
Replacing
think it-
ceiling tiles, new door handles.
Yeah, I think it's
That stuff is
important to
ancillary.
cut it off, but put it on a list saying,
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
what, and these X dollar amounts, this $70 million has been whittled down by this, it's been whittled down by what's in the 5-year capital,
Yep.
right? The
Yep.
problem with the 5-year capital, and we're gonna see it today, is it changes,
Yeah.
right? That's a moving target, and certain things were 3 years out but are now needed this year.
Yeah,
So-
parking lot sinks, right? We didn't have that in the 5-year capital.
Okay.
But I, that's a good point, Mr. Ewert, that dollar amount from the general
Yeah.
public and probably as a board is,
There's a-
oh my goodness, but what are we already doing and what is the priority and how do we make that a manageable dollar amount?
Yeah, I
over
mean,
time?
there's already, ultimately, there's already people in the public pushing, oh, the school's gonna ask for a referendum over this $70 million, even though we've already discussed in multiple meetings, a lot of that 70 million over 10 years is already taken care of in a 5-year capital, and technically 2 5-year capitals at that. So showing how that is, and then figuring out if there's 15 million left over or
Right.
10 million left over, what do we do to attack that? That's a different conversation, but you guys gotta get it there.
Yep. And we're
So
not
we-
in a
so we can
place
have
where
those
we're
buckets
dire.
to see where all this is.
Yeah, it's not we're not in a dire state where buildings are falling down and those type of things.
Correct.
This is just like in your own home, it's normal upkeep and maintenance, and we need to be strategic in how we take care of that versus we wait, like you've seen other districts wait, and now we need a big dollar amount.
Yep. Oh,
So is that helpful, Mr. Lord, Brittany? I mean, is it to be able to take kind of that away for the May meeting? I mean, obviously reach out to me if you want, whatever you guys can create as far as that's concerned. I'd be more than happy to look at it or talk about it. And
And I just have one ask.
yes, Mr. Ewert.
Obviously, you're the 4 committee members, so make that schedule work for you, and the rest of us will figure it out. That's our job, to make sure not to impede your work on that. So, get it good, you gotta get it done, but don't let 3 other members that might not just be able to work perfect that day, get it done, and we'll figure out
Mhm.
that side of it, and we'll attend the meetings we can.
Well, we know that any meeting, any tour that Mr. Loth will be at, he'll be the picture guy, so he can share his picture.
So
Yeah,
6 a.m. on Saturdays is what I heard.
We won't miss a single utility room either.
If they're not in the report.
Yeah.
Somebody,
I don't-
somebody has to be that guy, right?
Here's the.
Jeff?
Yeah.
I'll be that guy.
We got a new- I'm recruiting.
You are.
The reality is, joking about it, but realistically, we have found things that needed to be fixed
Right.
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
ultimately were fixed within a month or 2 of because those tours occurred.
Yeah.
So we joke about these tours, they are a necessity.
Going behind the scenes is the most important,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
I mean, I think in general, at least this is my opinion, anything that we do this year as far as tours has to be focused. We can certainly do a spring tour for the buildings, for the public. I mean, if we have a meeting at any of the schools to do this, obviously we'll post it. It's gonna be a regular meeting. It's just gonna be in a different place. Maybe a little bit more focused in the particular discussion that's involved in that meeting. But, I mean, in my mind, I think it's useful, and I think it's something important for the public to be able to just kind of see our buildings. But in my mind, that's a spring thing. Here, we've got too tight of a timeline to spend an hour and a half walking through MacArthur, for instance, and looking at every room and seeing all the different things. It's not that it's not important, but we have some work that we need to take care of sooner rather than later. Any other questions, discussions on this particular item? Yes,
I
Mr.
think you just said it, but it's worth emphasizing, these are public meetings, and it would be nice if, a few people from the public showed up. We had a group of guys, retirees that worked in the industry, HVAC and that sort of thing. I was real happy to see those guys along, and they might be able to help with some commentary too, things they see. It'd be nice if we had 100 people
Yep.
along, just because they're all taxpayers, right? They should see what their facilities include and what the needs are.
Thank you. Anything else?
Get to work.
Well, we have a few other items on this
Perfect.
agenda. Item
Oh,
number.
I'm sorry, we can't just go.
Yeah, we can't just skip.
That was just a report.
Item number 6, there is no unfinished business. We've got some new business that we're gonna have to take care of in the future. Item number 7, new business. A, GHS RTU 6 cooling coil replacement. Mr. Lord.
Yes, thank you. So Germantown High School rooftop unit, that for short GHS RTU 6, is in need of having its cooling coils replaced. GHS RTU 6 has several cooling coils repairs, has had several cooling coil repairs within the last 6 years, and has most recently been repaired in January of 2024 after the coils leaked and caused flooding in the GHS cafeteria. There are currently multiple areas located on the coil bends that are now leaking. These areas have already been repaired at least once and are no longer in condition to be repaired again. The replacement of both cooling coils is part of the 5-year capital improvement plan of 2024 through 2029, as presented on January 27th, 2025. Staff sent out a request for a quotation for the replacement of the 2 coils in this unit to 3 competitive contractors. Communications were made with all 3, but only Butters Fetting and Company submitted a quotation. The district utilized Butters Fetting for countless projects and repairs to date, all of which they have completed in a budget-friendly and highly satisfactory way. And I have attached the quote. This one, I think I did a short update on this coil leak when it did happen, but this is that unit above the cafeteria. It plays a crucial part in that entire common space cafeteria.
Okay, thank you. A couple items before I open it up. One is, I have a feeling a certain member of this committee appreciates the fact that you defined what the acronyms were, so I'll jump onto that right away before it's brought up. Also highlighting that it was part of the 5-year capital improvement plan, and the fact that we did send out for bids to 3 different competitors. Unfortunately, only one came back. It's obviously always nice to have multiple ones, but we can't necessarily make companies do or at least submit a bid if they're either not interested or cannot provide the bid itself. So that being said, any questions or discussions for the item? Yes.
This would be another great spot for photos, worth 1,000 words. Of the unit that we're replacing. Also, I do not recall the cafeteria flooding. I don't recall any. Does anyone else remember that? Did I just forget, or
I shared it in an update last
Yeah.
year.
like a Friday update
Yep.
or something? Okay, it's just not, I just don't recall it then.
Okay.
And I read all the updates.
I know you did.
Maybe bold letters.
I think,
next
and I
time.
remember meeting Frank over there before school even started that morning,
Wha-
because we had ceiling tiles down.
So maybe it wasn't that big of a deal that I don't remember it.
That,
You
I
know,
don't know
water-
if it did, I don't remember if it
There
came
was
to
a-
committee, but there
Yeah,
was
I don't think it did. I think it just had,
communication
Yeah.
regarding it.
because it was quite a bit of water, but because of the layout of the cafeteria, we had 5 or 6 people on it with scrubbers and
Just sucking
Backs
water
and-
up.
Yeah, and it
so
happened to be a
block
professional
wall and-
development day, so kids weren't affected by it.
yeah, that's the best. Best
It's never good,
catastrophe.
but when it
Yeah.
doesn't affect kids, it's even better.
Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to send this to the finance committee, the proposal from Butter Fettig to replace GHS RTU 6 in the amount of not to exceed $44,130, funded out of the capital improvements budget fund 41. Sorry, with a positive recommendation.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Cutts, second by Voyer to move forward with a positive recommendation to the finance committee.
You guys work here.
To hire
He's
Bu-
got 2 seconds.
to hire Butters Fetting Company to replace the cooling coils in GHS RTU 6 in the amount of $44,130 funded out of the capital improvements budget, Fund 41. Do we have any discussion? See-
January 17th, I sent the board an email regarding the situation at the high school.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business B, District Office DX Unit Number 2 replacement.
Yes. The district office direct expansion, DX, unit number 2 is in need of replacement. DX unit number 2 is the original unit installed during the last building addition in 1991, making it 34 years, give or take a few months that I'm not sure of. This unit has had numerous repairs over the past few years, and currently only one of its 2 compressors is operable. This unit supplies cooling to roughly 90% of the district office building, including offices, halls, common areas, and restrooms. The replacement of this unit is part of the 5-year capital plan 2024-2029. It is currently part of the plan 2028-2029 capital projects, but has been deemed a priority due to its failing state. The change in the project year will be reflected on the next updated 5-year capital improvement plan. Due to the recent changes in the Environmental Protection Agency's EPA refrigerant regulations, staff was prompted to expedite the costing process to obtain the most cost-effective options. Excuse me. In doing so, staff worked directly with Butters Fetting to generate a project budget to furnish and install a direct replacement DX cooling unit. The district has utilized Butters Fetting for countless projects and repairs to date, and has continuously upheld district expectations in a budget-friendly manner. The cost for this replacement is $60,915, and that is $36,700 for the equipment and $24,215 for the install and labor. And I have attached the proposal.
Okay, thank you very much, once again, for tying it back to the capital improvement plan, identifying that it's been a reprioritization due to its current state as well. I do have a question just for clarification purposes, since there's language in here that you guys work directly to generate a project budget to furnish and install. So basically, just once again to clarify, we said, hey, this is in effect, this is what we'd be willing to pay. Does it fit into a budget? Is that how we went about it, rather than request for price?
Correct. They were pretty much at our, I don't want to say disposal, but direct connection of what we had and what we needed to fit within, without going out and making it a larger project than what it needs to be, and without selling ourselves short as far as the HVAC went.
Any questions from the group? Mr. Lowe?
The current unit is probably R22,
Correct.
I think, and what's the new one going to be?
That is going to be 141A. So part of this, without getting into too much detail, the new 242B, excuse me if I'm wrong with that, there's a lot of them now. But that would entail that we remove the entire unit itself. Air handler, anything that came in contact with the old refrigerant would have to be replaced. That's our new standard since January 2025. So this unit, which they are now in a matter of a couple of months, are extremely hard to get a hold of. So you have to know a company that really does have a direct contact with Trane. Say, yeah, we have one in California sitting on, a trailer bed. Can we take it? And that's kind of what this came down to. Otherwise, our cost would be much, much higher. It is still completely legal, and they'll be making the 141. I think they're looking to phase it out in the next 40-some years, but the cost to go to that 242B is just over double. So it's beneficial and cost-effective.
Hopefully that goes away altogether now,
Yeah.
that nobody uses it. I remember some fairly big project on HVAC being done here a year or two ago, it seems. And I think my memory is failing on that one also. It seemed like we did some in the $30K range here. Was that boiler work possibly?
I think more than likely boiler work. For here specifically?
Yeah, in this building.
I don't believe we have.
I think we've put any money in.
Not too high.
this
No,
building.
Didn't we
What
do
is
some
that?
panels?
Yeah.
Some sort of panels, I think,
Um,
of something, I don't know what. I'm drawing a blank too.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. I've got a lot of.
I-
Boards are-
It's
not here.
Yeah, the reason why I bring it up, I thought some of this was done already, so I was a little surprised to hear that this unit's covering about 90% of this building. It just doesn't seem to match up with what I think we talked about in maybe a year or two ago.
Okay.
But that's okay,
There was a
obviously-
larger repair that was done 2 or 3 years pre-me that was probably about upper 20s or $30,000 for that same unit.
Here, okay.
Yeah, and that was essentially a good Band-Aid, but you know,
Yeah,
not.
all right.
Yeah,
So now we fix it the rest of the way.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and hopefully get another 40 years out of it, which is really good.
Is there any thought, it seems like we're using Butters Fetting for quite a few items, and they seem to be really spot on getting, quotes and back. Is there any thought about contracting with them to see if we did have a certain amount of time where we contracted with them and be able to have maybe a discount on some of the labor? And then they, you know, they obviously are gonna be used, which will save time on trying to grab, you know, get a bunch of different estimates. If we seem to go with them anyway, potentially they would give us a break on labor.
Yeah, there's been, I've had a couple conversations with Brittany about just that. They do have maintenance agreements. I will say on top of it, we have 2 local technicians that are very well known within our district and have been around for quite some time, where they've actually dedicated, several hours just on their way home, and we don't get charged for it. So I think it would be beneficial for us. I haven't fully opened up the door quite that far yet, but it is definitely honing down to.
Because they have people that know, they get to know the buildings, and there's a lot of benefits to just
Definitely.
kind of staying consistent, as long as we obviously trust them, and they seem to be coming in where we want the price point to be anyway.
Yep.
Yes, Mr.
It sounds like that'd be a good thing to roll into this discussion around this
Definitely.
facilities use and the 5-year capital and all that.
I agree.
You'd have to go out for bid.
Absolutely, you'd have to go out to bid for, but I'm just saying if you include it along with this bigger discussion.
I just
That,
wanna make
that's
sure
all,
the
the
end-
yeah, that's all part of the architecture of the future plans of the district, so. Yeah, it's not, we can't just say, yes, it's, legally we have to
Yep.
find out.
Any other questions or comments on this particular item?
This is for cooling. Did you talk to the employees of the building whether they want cooling or heat?
Oh, they want cooling.
Cooling is
Believe
quite
me,
the
they
discussion.
take
Bathroom
pictures
doors
of their
open then.
thermostats all summer long. Why is it 97 degrees in here? I'm like, you're fine. You're fine.
Go work outside.
I won't even show face in here when it gets.
I don't think Frank runs.
If there's no other questions, I'd be open to a motion.
A motion to move forward with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to hire Butters Fetting Company to replace DX Unit Number 2 in the amount of $60,915, funded out of the Capital Improvements Budget, Fund 41.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Cutts, second by Loth, to move forward with a positive recommendation to the Finance Committee to hire Butters Fetting to replace DX Unit 2 at the district office in the amount of $60,915, funded out of the Capital Improvements Budget, Fund 41. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would take one final motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
The motion by Cutts, second by Loth to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Our Buildings and Grounds Committee ends at 5:44 PM.